Waiting on this computer to boot back up and we'll be good to go.
Oh, no worries. Sorry, I realized that thing was out on. Welcome into the middle of it. Thank you all for being with us on this Wednesday, the 31st. I'm Jeb Hart. Happy to be with you. Got Clayton Harris in the studio with me. How are we, Clayton?
Doing well, Jeb. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Got some few topics to get into today. Few things, obviously, in the headlines. I do want to. I After we talked yesterday and brought up, the Artemis missions, I realized, and I was sitting there complaining about, like, why isn't this getting enough coverage? Why don't people care? And I realized that I hadn't even talked about it. So we're gonna open with a bit more detail on that because it is awesome. Um,
Yes, it
and
is.
then go into a few aspects of some of the lesser talked about issues with government as it currently exists. The main one being the temporary government, the just continued extension of things or government by workaround to where Congress is no longer there. It's a system that we've just become so accustomed to as just putting band-aids on gunshot wounds all the time that it's just become normal practice, but it's not how it was meant to function. So I think we're going to dive into that in the second bit. And I also want to check in on our absolutely off the rails neighbors to the north in the National Democratic Party in Canada. They hosted their convention over the weekend, and I don't know who has seen it, but oh boy, it is something to behold. But is there anything you want to make sure we get to, Clayton?
No, man, the Artemis thing is exciting.
All right, well then let's get ourselves into that one here. If y'all let us work our way through the first segment on this, because I did look into it a bunch yesterday because I felt guilty that I hadn't talked about it. So This might run a little long, so let me know if I run too far afield. But so we need to talk about something that is should be made a much bigger deal than it is, and I'd like to do so today because while everybody is yelling about politics and wars and gas prices and whatever fresh brain cell homicide showed up on the phone this morning, uh, we're going back to the moon, and most people barely know what's happening. And it's different than before. Like, this time, it's not just going up there, planting a flag, calling dibs, snagging some rocks, taking a photo, and then jetting back home like we're redoing 1969 again, just with better cameras. Which I am excited about the quality of camera, but that's not the intent. The idea this time is to build something that lasts, and I think that's the main difference. Is that Apollo was a sprint. Artemis is supposed to be an infrastructure build. Apollo was asking the question, can we get there? Slash, can we get there before the Soviets? Artemis is, can we go there? Can we stay there? Can we work there? And can we eventually build from there? Which is a very different ambition than our initial use case. And if it works, it's not just a cool science story. It's one of the most important civilizational projects ever in the history of mankind. I mean, we're talking about building a sustainable, like, bricks and mortar on a foreign, on a moon, like outside of our, just all of it. It's a crazy thing that the fact that we're just glossing over. It's wild to me. Now, to understand why it matters, you have to back up a bit because we kind of touched on this yesterday about just how extraordinary the Apollo missions were. And because they were brave, they were historic, they were technologically insane for the time. And it's absolutely worth celebrating and still being in awe of what they accomplished. But, Apollo is not designed to create some durable human presence beyond Earth. Apollo was a demonstration, it was a feasibility study, as so many governments are, so apt to utilize. And it was a magnificent one, but still nothing more than a demonstration to get there, to beat the rival, to prove the concept, and to get home safe. That was the mission. And Artemis is trying to answer a much harder question. Not, can humans visit the moon? We've already answered that. Now the question becomes, can humans build the habitats, systems, hardware, and infrastructure needed to operate off-world in some repeatable way? Which makes this much bigger. It's a bigger ask and it's a bigger question. Because if the answer is yes, then the moon stops being a destination and it starts becoming a platform. And that is where we are right now. Whether most people realize it or not, the next big step is going to come after, which would be Artemis 2. That is the first crewed Artemis mission that is currently targeted no earlier than 2026. So it should be this. Oh, yeah, no, it's coming tomorrow, is it not?
And I was holding up three. I thought you meant the one that was going to
Yeah,
land on the
Artemis
moon.
3
Artemis
is the one
three is
that's
going to
coming
land on the
after.
moon. Yeah,
Artemis 2 is the one that's happening tomorrow.
that's going to orbit the moon for a
Yes.
couple of days.
Yes, it put actual human beings in the machine and send them around the moon for this mission for about 10 days.
It'll be the furthest out any human has ever been in a spacecraft.
It's going to go out and around the moon and back. It's Reed Weissman, Victor Glover, and Christina Koch or Koch, I don't know, and a Canadian who, whatever. Um, he'll be all right. And the mission matters because Artemis 1 already proved that the hardware could fly uncrewed. So again, an underreported story is that there was an Artemis 1, sent people up there, worked fine, great, wonderful. Machines are very brave, awesome. But Artemis 2 is where NASA says, now let's put people up there and see how this whole thing shakes out, because the stakes stop being theoretical anymore, and the collateral damage is people, not parts, and that's a very different test. And if the timeline holds together and everything works, then we go to Artemis 3, which is So I thought he was saying we had 3 minutes left, but he was referencing that there is another one to come. And this one is aimed at putting astronauts back on the surface of the moon
Correct.
or lunar surface, which I think is more fun to say. Um, and it's not just anywhere on the lunar surface, it's near the South Pole. And now that is not because NASA got bored at the Schiaparelli craters or no, that's actually from Mars. Uh, but the moon was no longer trendy enough or whatever. The South Pole matters because scientists believe that's where the water and ice permanently shadowed in those craters are. And space water is not just water, apparently. And that's the part that I did not know. Like water means drinking. Yes, awesome. It also means oxygen, means hydrogen, it means life support. All those things are important. It means the raw material for fuel and long duration operations potentially exists. In other words, if you can reliably access water on the moon, you are no longer just visiting the place. You are starting to learn how to live there. And that's a big strategic shift from our initial goals back in the day. And one of the reasons, Artemis matters so much is because of that. Because the real game here is not tourism, even though that, as we discussed yesterday, that might be the next step after this step. It's not nostalgia for the bygone eras of, Buzz Aldrin in just a tight haircut and a Corvette. It's not chasing that nostalgia. It is not, Apollo with social media. I mean, honestly, if it was Apollo with social media, more people would have heard about it. So put
Right.
that in a comment section for the people at NASA moving forward. It's learning whether human beings can build the systems required to live and work beyond Earth for long stretches of time. We've proven it in some capacity about how much the body can handle that sort of thing at the International Space Station, but that's not building outside of attaching what was shot up with the shuttles. And that's where all the talk about the lunar base starts coming in that we alluded to yesterday. Because now when people hear moon base, not only do they think it's cool, they also tend to picture some giant science fiction outpost with glowing domes and flying cars and like some coffee shop called Lunar Grounds and Xenon or whatever. And that's not what this is, not yet. Um, I mean, I'm hoping for the space golf carts, but what they're talking about is much closer to like a serious field station, like an active combat zone, like habitats, power systems, rovers, the ability to recharge the rovers, communication arrays, science infrastructure to test all of these hypotheses with the water and building. But they're testing the ability to stay longer, do more, come back, and repeat, and slowly build the kind of operational knowledge that a Mars mission would require, because that's the next step, because that's the deeper point, is that the moon is not just the destination, it's a proving ground in very similar atmosphere and circumstances. I mean, obviously Mars is further away, colder, etc. But this is just a staging ground to test that concept. And that's what most people don't talk about, because NASA is not doing this because somebody in government office got misty-eyed watching, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, and wanted to run it back. They're doing it because Mars is a lot harder, like a lot harder. Um, and if you want to send people to Mars someday, you're going to need to learn a whole new set of things that you still don't know how to do at any sort of scale. And how do you manage power that far from Earth? How do you handle radiation exposure at different levels? How do you support human crews for long durations? How do you operate with more delay or more isolation with way less margin for error? In a lot of cases, the margin for error is zero. And how do you use local resources instead of having to haul every ounce of material up from Earth at an absolutely absurd cost per ounce? Like Artemis is supposed to help answer those questions as to what we can do now, what we need to build on, and what comes next. Um, there's another major difference between Artemis and Apollo. Apollo was basically one giant national project. And every branch of government, it was a huge national push for all this. Artemis is much more of a system. NASA has Orion. NASA has the space launch system, but the broader aspects in architecture also include, commercial landers, commercial cargo delivery, lunar science payloads, orbital infrastructure, and a whole network of public-private collaboration that makes this look less like a single like moonshot and more like the beginning of like transportation and logistics plan, like if you're trying to like roll out a warehouse. And that part matters because even when the public, thinks nothing is happening, there's so much happening. Hardware is being tested, landing systems are being developed, science payloads are moving and making sure that they can last the journeys without messing up calibrations. Commercial systems are trying to deliver instruments and experiments to the lunar surface. This is one of this is one reason the story doesn't land with the public the way it should. And because that's what I was thinking about when we were talking about it yesterday. I was like, why does no one care about this? Because this is not one giant movie moment. It's just a long series. This is not 1 week of national drama. Will they or won't they make it? Well, this is just years of engineering delays. I mean, Artemis 2 was supposed to happen a few weeks back. It got delayed and testing, redesigns, contracts, launches, gradual build out, scrubbing of missions, moving of them, which unfortunately is not how modern attention works. If a rocket explodes, everybody hears about it,
Yep.
everybody sees it, people tweet about it, you know, then you're on to the next thing. It was like, boom. When you think about Colombia, it was a national tragedy that people like still remember where they were. Now you look at the rocket, you're like, oh, Elon Musk thing didn't land. Moving on. Um, like if a major piece of space infrastructure inches forward through years of difficult engineering and some slow process, most people will never hear a word about it. Because then that's more or less where we are. And then there is Gateway, another thing I didn't really know about, but this is NASA's planned station in lunar orbit. Not because the world was crying out for another floating backdrop for zero gravity interviews, but the idea is that Gateway helps become part of this transportation chain between Earth, lunar orbit, and the surface. So when you step back and look at the whole thing of what Artemis is really trying to build, it's not just a mission, it is an architecture and it's a logistics architecture. Launch from Earth, move through deep space, operate in lunar orbit, land on the surface, build surface systems, extend duration, learn how to repeat it, and eventually use all of this as a training and logistics frameworks for the next step to Mars.
Because
And that is
NASA just announced last week that they were going to build a $20 billion moon base by what,
mhm,
2030?
by 2030. Yeah. That's what we're talking about is that like that moon base they're building up there, they're going to do over time is just the testing ground and ideally will be the launching ground for the Mars missions that come. And we'll see what the problems are. And there's things we don't think about, radiation because it doesn't have the atmosphere that we do to deflect it, and all of these things that over a period of time, they may be wildly ambitious, they may be frustratingly slow, they're definitely going to be expensive, but all of the progress they're making is very real. So if we could, let's talk about the thing that always makes people, sigh into their coffee about these things. We had addressed it a bit yesterday, and this is also the reason why Apollo and everything else kind of went by the wayside is the cost. It's expensive, very freaking expensive, and now that's part of why Artemis gets such uneven attention because it's easier to sell the public on a dramatic triumph than a decades long build out with overruns, schedule slips, bureaucratic headaches, endless arguments about procurement or whatever. It's probably smart that they'll send pictures from the moon and then people will be interested, not move the goalposts as you inevitably have to in a project of this size when things move or change and the public's like, oh, you promised us you'd be at the moon. So brag about the success and then wallow in that. Don't carry people along for the lead up. And I think that's fair enough because that is real. People should be honest about that part of it. This thing is slow, costly, and will almost certainly continue to frustrate people who want cleaner timelines with cheaper things or want different trade-offs. So I mean, it's pretty reasonable to expect to expect delays, expect cost overruns, expect headlines every so often telling you the schedule slipped. You know, all of that is relatively part of the deal. But you should also expect the progress, which we have seen, and I learned a lot more about it in looking into it. And I think going back into deep space, also found out deep space, anything outside of our atmospheres, deep space. There's low Earth orbit, and I thought deep space was like past like Uranus and Pluto, but apparently no. Uh, Not overly important, but deep space is fun to say. Artemis 2 and Artemis 3 is the one that'll probably become the massive story. Like Artemis 2, I think when the pictures come out, people are going to care a lot. That'll spark the interest for the showstopper of moon base, which is Artemis 3. There'll be a lot more discussion over the next several years about what lunar infrastructure looks like, water, ice, orbital staging, all this stuff. Because right now, if they land at the base at the South Pole and there's water there, that changes everything. If there's no water, back to the drawing board as to what they. There's so much left to be addressed or gone through that there's so much of it could change. If there's no water, a lot of it changes. But it's going to be imperfect. It's going to be expensive, but it ideally is going to happen. And because there are not, many projects left in this country that feel like they are aimed at something larger than the next election, the next outrage cycle, the next quarterly earnings call. And Artemis is one of them. And to your point yesterday, Clayton, is like, why are we not rallying around something that is bigger than that? Something that is hopeful, something that is joyful. And this is one of the few big things happening right now that is trying to answer a genuinely long range human question. Can we build a presence beyond the sky above us? Not visit, not some stunt, not planting the flag, to build, to sustain. And if the answer is yes, then history may look back on Artemis very differently than people hearing about this for the first time do now. Not as Apollo 2.0, not as some sequel, but as the beginning of the moment when humans and spaceflight stopped being mostly, episodic and started becoming infrastructural to how we operate as, a species. And that is a much bigger deal. And maybe the strangest part of all of this is that we've had enough cultural energy in this country to turn every dumb little controversy into a week-long national psychosis. But one of the most ambitious exploratory programs of the century is unfolding right in front of us. And most people could not tell you the name of the next mission. And that to me is crazy. Because if we were going to get excited about anything, maybe going back to the moon with the intention of staying a while might ought to make that list.
Agreed.
And I know I ran that a bit long there, but I think it's awesome. And I think we need to, cover it and give updates on what's going on. Like I said, it's a 10-day mission and there's plenty to do, but that did take us through the first hour. So we can talk, you and I can talk about this when we get back.
School football. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
We at Hollins Pharmacy must be doing something right. We've been providing pharmaceutical services in the Middle Tennessee area for over 60 years. The guiding principles of our business are fast, accurate, friendly, personal service. We do not have long waiting lines and our phone calls are answered by a staff member. We strive to get to know our customers by name, not just a date of birth or number. We are your locally owned hometown pharmacy and we appreciate your business. We urge you to come visit us at Hollins Pharmacy, 1608 Hatcher Lane here in Columbia.
Hey, this is Derek Ransom with 10 Pin Alley, voted #1 family entertainment center in Murray County. We offer 32 bowling lanes, giant arcade, laser tag, bumper cars, and a full cafe and bar menu. We also specialize in group events, kids and adult birthday parties, company parties, sports team parties, and holiday parties. We're located at 322 East James Campbell Boulevard in Columbia. Call us today at 931-381-BOWL or visit us at 10pin.com. 10 Pin Alley, it's where the good times roll.
In today's uncertain world, you can never be too careful about your family's financial future. That's why the Parker Group, a part of Baird's Private Wealth Management, is offering a free second opinion on your financial plans. Let us review your current plan, and we will identify any gaps and offer suggestions to improve it. Please call the Parker Group at 931-548-3737. That's 931-548-3737. Robert W. Baird and Company Incorporated does not offer tax or legal advice.
This is Mark Curry at the Trailer Store. We are a local, family-owned business. Every day, I work with my wife, Susie, my mother, Becky, and my son, Justin. We offer a full line of lawnmower trailers, utility trailers, stock trailers, and a full line of trailer parts. We also offer service. Come see us at 1021 New Lewisburg Highway. Call us at 931-381-2795. That's 931-381-2795.
Farmer Johnny here, Taylor Family Farm. I want to give y'all a little look-see. We raise 100% non-GMO, grass-fed beef, pasture chicken, and pork on our family farm. Everything that we grow is raised with love and care to ensure the highest quality and nutrition for our family and customers. You can shop online at TaylorFamilyFarmTN.com or visit our farm store in person at Etheridge, Tennessee at 301 Dave Reisner Road. That's TaylorFamilyFarmTN.com for more information.
Hi, I'm Kelly Dobson, owner of Caring Hearts Home Healthcare here in Columbia. For over 20 years, we've proudly served our community, locally owned and operated, providing trusted care you can count on. We support seniors, individuals with disabilities, and even short-term care after surgery. From personal care to homemaking and companionship, our team is here to help you or your loved one live safely and comfortably at home. Call Caring Hearts today at 931-381-5470 or stop by in person, 1121 Trotwood Avenue here in Columbia.
Hello, I'm Rick Whitley.
And I'm Daniel Pollard from Jones & Lang Sporting Goods. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the many years of support. Since 1966, Jones & Lang has been locally owned and operated and supplying teams from T-ball to college. Stop by and see what we can do for you. We offer a wide variety of services from silk screening and embroidery to our custom trophy and awards department.
We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to noon. Remember, Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Hello, my name is Zach Maddox. I'm a proud third-generation owner-operator of Columbia Paint and Wallcover, founded by my grandfather, Ralph Maddox, in 1946. We offer a variety of paint and wallcovering products, but our passion is customer service. We can offer many personalized services and can come out to your house or business if needed. Come visit us at our Columbia location or our new Spring Hill location behind Church of the City, or visit us online at paintcolumbia.com.
On the farm, uptime isn't just nice to have, it's a must-have. That's why JLG Ag telehandlers are a multitasking workhorse. Whether moving and loading more, stacking higher, or even accessing tighter spots with compact models, these machines help poultry, cotton, and row crop producers maximize every moment on the job. Once you get behind the wheel, you'll get more done. It's that simple. See JLG Ag telehandlers for yourself. Come out to Try Green Equipment in Columbia, just off Theta Pike.
Mini Cooper, Volvo, BMW, Land Rover, Jaguar. Hi, I'm David Usselton, owner of Usselton Motorworks Foreign Car Repair, located in Columbia, Tennessee. We're at the corner of West 12th and South High Street. We offer a 5-year, 50,000-mile warranty on all repairs. Come see us in Columbia, Tennessee, or call us at 931-215-1765, or visit us on the web at usseltons.com.
The Mules are back in town, April 9th to 11th at the Murray County Park, Columbia, Tennessee. Live music, vendors, contests, and yes, mules. Mule pulling, gated mules, mule scrambles, and more. Join us Thursday through Saturday at the Murray County Park. Don't miss the Mule Day Parade, 11 a.m. Saturday, April 11th. Visit muleday.com for a complete schedule of events. Brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Happy you'll be, or the service is free. And the Murray County Visitors Bureau. Plan your visit now at experiencemurray.com.
Discover Prime and Pint in downtown Columbia, where great food meets great company. Join us for weekly specials. Tuesday is Texas Tuesday, with a rotating menu that gives back to local causes. Wednesday is half-off burgers and pints all day long. And on Thursday, don't miss our prime rib dinner carved fresh by our chef. Make your night memorable at Prime and Pint, 105 East 6th Street, Columbia. Prime and Pint Butchery and Public House.
Okay, we'll still send it code 3.
This is Lieutenant Orlando Cox with the Columbia Police Department, welcoming you to Columbia, Tennessee, home of the Mule Day Parade. We expect in large crowds, exciting parade, and a lot of activities throughout Columbia. As we celebrate, please slow down, stay alert, and watch out for pedestrians. Follow officers' directions and avoid distractions. Please buckle up. Let's work together to keep Mule Day safe, fun for everyone. Have a great Mule Day weekend.
Harmon Scrap Metal invites you to our annual Columbia Easter egg hunt. Join us Saturday, April 4th from 2 to 4 p.m. at Woodland Park Rotary Shelter in Columbia. With over 10,000 eggs, bounce houses, food trucks, and fun for kids of all ages. It's an event the whole family will love. So grab your baskets and hop on over for an afternoon of Easter fun. We'll see you there.
Cable, still 10 at code 3.
Are you thinking about a new fence? Maybe you need a pole barn? Then you should give Sands Fence Company a call. That's 931-309-1644. Will Sands has built his business based on the principles of honesty, quality, and integrity. Sands Fence Company has been in business for over 20 years, providing their community with farm, residential, and commercial fencing, as well as pole barns and buildings. Call today for a free estimate. Sands Fence Company, 931-309-1644. That's 931-309-1644.
Welcome back to In the Middle of It. Jeb Hart here with you on this Wednesday the 31st. Clayton Harris joining me, all purpled up on me today, looking like Grimace.
Representing the Columbia Central High School colors.
Oh, it's a good. Oh, I know it is a good look. I appreciate the monochromatic nature of it. In our first segment, we were going over something that re-piqued my interest yesterday in the Artemis missions and the Boone that's going tomorrow. And sorry for the long-winded thing, but fact is, most people don't know nearly enough about it. Is why we're doing it, what's happening, what the goal is. So I figured we'd. And
first,
also, I had.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time humans have went and orbited the moon since 1972.
Yeah,
that's
so
a big
it's something
deal.
that I did a deep dive on, and someone had to know. I had to do something with it, so now you know. I'm excited to see how it goes. I'm going to start following it a lot more closely, and I promise we will keep updates on this. Is there anything else you want to add to the just men in space?
Well, Delk and I yesterday. Delk's in the studio with us right now. He's listening to the show. We were looking over the components of the ship, and it seems like it's a joint venture between Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and SpaceX on this Artemis deal. So,
I mean, there was so much of that back in with the Saturn V rockets. I mean, it was always an overlap between NASA and private, but this one was more or less spearheaded by SpaceX to be like, we need to do this. And that's the one that kind of pushed it along. I think part of the Falcon rockets proving their worth and proving the feasibility over a period of time allowed it to be. And I'm excited to see what, technological advancements come from it. And, again, like to the listening audience, we will keep you posted with all of it. And I'm excited to see what the pictures look like and what we learn. So we will keep our ear to the ground on that as things come up. As I alluded to in the open, wanted to talk about something that I think is a much bigger issue that we've gotten way too used to. So I guess I want to tell you something that probably explains a lot more about this country than most headlines do. And it's kind of the story of the America we live in right now. Is not that the system is working. It's that we've gotten very, very good at pretending a workaround is the same thing as order. And that's where we are. Because Congress, like in this scenario that we've seen 1,000 times, Congress doesn't solve the problem. Executive branch improvises something, be an executive order otherwise. Then the court decides whether that improv gets to stand or not. And that's just modern governance in one sentence. And that is nowhere is that clearer than what's happening with DHS, TSA, ICE, the airports, because the whole thing started the way these fights always start: a political standoff wrapped in moral language and paid for by people who had nothing to do with the argument. Congress deadlocks over DHS funding. TSA officers are stuck working without pay. Some quit, some miss shifts, airports back up, lines get ugly. Then suddenly Washington dysfunction is showing up at the security checkpoint, and they're kind of ears go off. Right there, that's the first lesson. In modern Washington, we don't govern through clean law nearly as much as we govern through pressure points. Find the pain, apply it, wait for the other side to blink. That's not the Schoolhouse Rock version that I learned. It's more of a hostage negotiation with C-SPAN cameras that are a bit too grainy. And because nothing works, so we got to the point to where we decided, let's just do a workaround, because it felt like something. The administration moved to get TSA employees paid. Airports started easing up, lines improved in major hubs, and the immediate pressure came down a bit. But the actual political problem was still sitting right there on the table. The shutdown fight was not resolved. The underlying standoff did not disappear. The machinery just got patched over long enough to keep the lines moving to where people were less pissed off. The administration also used ICE personnel to support at the airports in these operations. Not, obviously, we've been over this, not to perform all those screening roles and tactics, just to free them up, to help shore up the pressure points while Congress was still busy performing democracy by trench warfare. Now, whether you like that move or hate that move, you've got to understand what it represents, because it represents a government that no longer runs through coherent legislative order. It runs through improvisation. Congress leaves a hole, executive branch throws some plywood over it. And then everybody acts like that was the long-term plan all along. That wasn't the plan. That was the patch. And that's more or less the funny part about Washington now, is nobody fixes the plumbing. They just keep getting better at mopping. And if that were the end of it, maybe you could say, fine, it's messy, but at least it's functional. But obviously that's not the end of it, because, in the second half of this new governing model is the courts. And that's where this goes. So where all this goes next is that administration acts, opposition sues, judge pauses, narrow, block, delay, redirect the action. That's the cycle. And you have to think about what that means, because we don't really pass durable consensus policy anymore. We don't really govern by broad legislative agreement anymore. We increasingly govern by executive action followed by extensive judicial review. Congress argues, president patches, judges play referee. That's the new separation of powers that we have worked our way into without even recognizing it. And before anybody out there says, well, that's just how the system's supposed to work. No, not like this. It has the ability to work like this. That is not how it was designed to function long term. Yes, courts are supposed to check power. Yes, presidents always have used executive authority. Yes, Congress has always fought over funding and fought with each other. But what is different now is the scale and the frequency. Like, the workaround is no longer the exception. It is becoming the rule and like the baseline operating system. And that's the part we have to address more and not just take as a fact. Because a country can survive a workaround from here every so often, here and there. It cannot do it forever. You cannot build an entire governing culture around emergency fixes and patches, like temporary authorities or courtroom vetoes. That's not stability. That's just like a rolling series of like controlled skids. Like, the public feels it even if they can't quite name it. And that's why everything feels so brittle all the time. And, that's why nothing feels fully settled. That's why every major political policy fight now seems to turn into some combination of executive memo, district court injunction, emergency appeal. cable news yelling that democracy has either been saved or killed before or after lunchtime. We built a system where everybody is permanently in the appeals process. And to be fair, the workaround in the case of the TSA stuff did some good. TSA got relief, airports stabilized a bit, travelers stopped staring at nightmare lines, wondering if they were going to, miss their own funeral. But, and that part matters, and people were helped by the patch, but people would call that a victory, but that's not. The deeper issue is that patch had to exist in the first place. Because if a country this large, this wealthy, and this institutionally mature cannot keep airport security functioning through just a normal, ordinary legislative process without veering into shut down Mexican standoff chaos, executive orders, judges, personal reshuffling, then the problem is no longer just the fight. The problem is the model. And I think that's what people are really picking up on right now, maybe if they realize it or not. Not that America has disagreements. We do. We've always had those. Not that the branches of the governments fight. They're supposed to. It's that the normal mechanism for resolving those fights is getting weaker. And the improvised mechanism to circumnavigate those issues is getting stronger. And that is a very different thing than the design. And because workarounds have a way of becoming habit. And habits have a way of becoming systems. And once the system becomes Congress delays, White House improvises, courts decide whether that improv gets to go. You are no longer being governed by a normal democratic order. You're being governed by a running argument between institutions that no longer trust each other enough to continue to do it cleanly. And that's not collapse by any means, but it is a drift. And a drift over a long period of time is how serious countries get themselves into serious trouble. Because eventually you hit something that cannot be solved with a plywood fix. A plywood patch will not cover some things that are in the future. Eventually, the workaround makes it very clear why it wasn't the way, why it was just a quick fix. Eventually, those patches become the vulnerabilities. And when that happens, you find out whether or not the machinery underneath it still works, or whether we have just all gotten used to applauding for duct tape. And that, to me, is the real story. Not that government still functions. It mostly does. It's how it functions. And more, it functions like a machine held together by that duct tape, by that litigation, and by that deadline panic, which is fine right up until the day the patch fails. And that's the problem with the workaround, because if a country, it can keep a country moving, but it cannot build anything stable. And we have gotten far too used to that as the baseline, and we've got to move past it. Because, we talk about the previous government shutdown where they passed the continuing resolution. We have to recognize as a country that we were held up on the government shutdown for so long that we stopped even thinking about the fact that they weren't even passing a new budget. They couldn't agree on that. So they just kick the can down the road again for like the 8th time. They just did we can't deal with that now. We'll just keep the same budget. But the reason they have a new budget is because they have things they need to fix in it, but they won't do that because neither one will pass it. So they just keep kicking the can down the road, and we accept that as normal, and it's not. And that's thoughts, my guy.
No, you're exactly right. The system is broken, and this is something that's become over the last 10 to 15 years. It's just we've been kicking the can down the road, especially when it comes to a budget and it comes to our national debt.
Everything can be someone else's problem, or everything
correct.
Else isn't an emergency if it's not. You look back to Operation Iraqi Freedom, or Enduring Freedom, or the global war on terror, or whatever. The live videos of them attacking Baghdad, the night vision, all that, and everyone was scared, and boots on the ground, and then people just got used to it. They're like, yeah, we're in the Middle East, and then 20 years go by, and you're like, oh, I forgot we were still over there. because like it stopped being, it just becomes part of the day to day.
It's
And
normalized.
it happens slowly without you recognizing that you've accepted it as normal. And that's what these sort of band-aids on governmental gunshot wounds has led us to, is that like, we're talking about the government being shut down because they couldn't pass an IOU or like a let's deal with this later bill. We got mad about them not passing that, yet we don't get mad about the fact that they can't pass an actual budget. They couldn't even pass the like the tax extension, more or less. Like the IRS, like I gotta file an extension. They couldn't even pass that without a giant fight. And we were proud that it got done. And we are like, yeah, government's open. At no point did anybody say like, yeah, it's open for another like month or two, because we still didn't do anything. And then it'll come up again, same conversation, same back and forth, no legislative resolution. And I think that that is where it starts to get into like the real serious problems. Because if like, I guess it would come to the phrase of temporary government. And I think that's where it starts to bother people, because it's temporary funding, it's temporary rules, it's temporary court orders, temporary executive actions, temporary fixes for the problems nobody actually wants to solve for real. And once you start noticing that and seeing it, that we're being governed less by settled law and more by extensions and patches and waivers and injunctions and delays and stopgaps, by emergency workloads, it's not a side effect. It's the just standard operating procedure of that model. And if you look around, you recognize that like genuinely Congress doesn't pass a durable budget. It passes that continuing resolution. And it's not a fix. It's not a solution. It is just an I didn't finish my homework. Can I have an extension? Or I was sick, or my dog ate it. Like, give me a few more days. Washington is saying, yeah, we did it, but nothing got settled. But we would like a little bit more time to keep pretending that we might settle it, and it'll be just around the corner. And we have done this so many times now that the country has just started confusing the avoidance of failure with actual progress. Band-aid after band-aid, patch after patch, deadline after deadline is not governing. That is instability on an installment plan. The administration doesn't get a law, it issues an order. A court blocks an order. An appeals court narrows the block. An agency rewrites the guidance, and everybody declares victory for 6 minutes, and then 2 weeks later the whole thing comes up again. Again, not stability. It is a payment plan for just fracturing. But that is government that is just continuing to roll with an expiration date on its back that it refuses to acknowledge is there. And people feel that even if they don't have a name for it or can't put a finger on it, and everything, it's just provisional. Now, it doesn't feel like it's sturdy or lasting. Nothing feels fully decided or finished. Nothing feels like it will be, like it'll still be true 6 months from now. A lot of times because it won't. And that's what temporary governance does. It trains the public to stop seeing policy as law and start seeing it as just like the weather. What's the rule today? Who blocked what? Oh, that judge said no? Damn. Which agency found a workaround? Did you talk to John? Which program got extended for another 90 days? Okay, then we don't have to deal with that. We'll move on to the next thing. And so that's not healthy. That sounds like just spinning plates. And a healthy system is supposed to produce rules people can actually plan around. Instead, we get a government that just keeps hitting the refresh button, checking in tomorrow, checking in after that hearing. We have that appeal coming up, so I wouldn't do anything quite yet because that could change a lot. And the oldest one is circle back after the election. And that danger is not just the inefficiency; it starts to become the erosion. It becomes the temporary government doesn't just weaken policy; it weakens the confidence in that government because they haven't done anything lasting since the last time you checked. Every major decision is one lawsuit away from ceasing to exist, being frozen, reversed, delayed, or rewritten. Like, people stop experiencing government as a structure and start experiencing it as an argument with office buildings that have real world consequences. Businesses stop planning long term. States start improvising around what Washington may or may not do. agencies start stretching their authority because they assume Congress won't act. Fair bet. And, we can get more into this when we get back, because we are at the top of the hour. I appreciate y'all being in the middle of it with me. I'm Jeb Hart, and I'll see you on the other side.
What did you say? Did you say? This is Coach Tredaris Goff from Columbia Central High School football. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
Hi, I'm Robert Rogers at Parks Motor Sales Buick GMC.
And I'm Michael Parks Lawrence at Parks Motor Sales Buick GMC.
Together, we're Mr. Bobby Parks' grandsons, and we run his dealership, and we are glad to be part of our local community.
Being family-owned and operated, we invest heavily in our community.
We do things like sports teams, schools, bands, you name it. We try to help everybody we can.
The reason why we do this is because we all love this community.
So come do business with us, your neighbors, at Parks Motor Sales in Columbia, Tennessee, right off Nashville Highway, or at parksmotorsales.com.
Let's talk custom design jewelry. Did you know Tillis Jewelry in downtown Columbia creates custom design jewelry and has been for over 30 years? From one-of-a-kind engagement rings to wedding bands and so much more. We want each piece to be as unique as you are and create a family heirloom for tomorrow. Call today and make an appointment with one of our designers. And just for calling, you will receive a free 30-minute consultation. Tillis Jewelry, creating custom jewelry proudly in Tennessee.
Spring starts at Trips Ace Hardware. On Saturday, April 25th, join us for our 5th annual Spring Day. Our garden center will be in full bloom. Explore premium grills from Rectech, Weber, and Big Green Egg with live demos throughout the day, and Milwaukee Tool on site with a full demo tent. Come see us at 112 East James Campbell Boulevard in Columbia. Thanks for shopping local at Trips Ace.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Do you have trees that need trimming or removed? Do you have stumps that you want grounded? A1 Tree Trimming and Removal is a family-owned and operated business local to Columbia and Lewisburg. They also service surrounding Middle Tennessee. We are licensed and insured and provide free estimates. No job is too big, no tree is too small. Give old Luke a call or text Luke at 931-359-3113. Or you can check them out on Facebook and tell A1 Tree Removal that you heard this ad on the radio. If you love America, then you will love A1 Tree Removal.
You're not just a homeowner, you're also an ice maker that didn't read the job description owner. Fortunately, you've got heating and cooling built and tested to keep going. American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning, built to a higher standard.
Call Davis Heating and Cooling at 931-388-2090 for all your home comfort needs. Davis Heating and Cooling is your local independent American Standard dealer and proudly serves the Murray County area. Find Davis Heating and Cooling online and on Facebook or call today, 388-2090.
This is Debbie Matthews with the Nashville Realty Group, and if you've been paying attention, you know the housing market has been tough, but rates are beginning to thaw. So if you're thinking about selling, the time to jump in is getting better every day. But if you're thinking about buying, and those interest rates are still a little bit too high, a good agent knows how to negotiate interest rate buydowns, and I'm a good agent. So call me, Debbie Matthews with Nashville Realty Group, 615-476-3224.
Hi, I'm Matt Perales, manager of Murray County Equipment. We help you with all your agriculture and construction equipment needs. We carry a full line of New Holland tractors from compacts to high horsepower. We have a full line of Gravely mowing equipment. We also have New Holland construction equipment, attachments, and accessories for your tractors and a complete parts department. We are locally owned and operated. Come see us at 1075 North James Campbell Boulevard or learn about us on Facebook or contact us at 931-490-8183.
This is Trip Stoltz with Columbia Ace Hardware. I love listening to 101.7 WKOM FM, Columbia, Tennessee.
The Mules are back in town, April 9th to 11th at the Murray County Park, Columbia, Tennessee. Live music, vendors, contests, and yes, mules. Mule pulling, gated mules, mule scrambles, and more. Join us Thursday through Saturday at the Murray County Park. Don't miss the Mule Day Parade, 11 a.m. Saturday, April 11th. Visit muleday.com for a complete schedule of events. Brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Happy you'll be, or the service is free. And the Murray County Visitors Bureau. Plan your visit now at experiencemurray.com.
Okay, we'll still send a code 3.
This is Lieutenant Orlando Cox with the Columbia Police Department, welcoming you to Columbia, Tennessee, home of the Mule Day Parade. We're expecting large crowds, exciting parade, and a lot of activities throughout Columbia. As we celebrate, please slow down, stay alert, and watch out for pedestrians. Follow officers' directions and avoid distractions. Please buckle up. Let's work together to keep Mule Day safe, fun for everyone. Have a great Mule Day weekend.
Welcome back into the middle of it. Jeb Hart here with you in our second hour on this Wednesday. So we're in the middle of the show, in the middle-ish of the week, in the middle of it. So I'm glad you're here with me.
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday? Have I been saying Wednesday this whole time?
You just did, but it is Tuesday.
My youngest son is not on. He's on spring break. Also, he's 3. So he doesn't actually he doesn't vacation much solo. He kind of sticks around here. So normally he's and also it's not spring break from a school. It's spring break from Mother's Day out at our church, which is like 9 to noon. So I mean, he really needed that break. It was getting a little fried from all intense, of the all that crafting and so I'm glad he's going to really get to take a beat for himself. So yeah, he's not in school today. So normally he's not in school on Wednesdays. So it threw me off. So yes, it's Tuesday. I hope didn't mess with anybody, and it's not tax day, and daylight savings is passed, so nobody screwed up. Clayton is here, correcting me on dates and being helpful on this 31st. I do know that. How are you, Clayton? And
doing well. Good morning, Jeb.
Also, we heard you said Delk was there?
Yeah, Delk's in the studio with us. Say hello, Delk.
Morning, Jeb.
Good morning. Thank you. Feel free to hop in if you got anything to add. I did, kind of want to land the plane that we were talking about with the kind of how things are functioning now, because we're ending it with like the problems that come from the temporary thing. It seems like a win at the time, but the way it trickles out, it's a problem, because if agents start to stretch the authority they have because they assume Congress is going to do nothing and something has to get done, presidents will start governing through pins and memos, or auto pins and staffers, depending on who, because they assume Congress can't act. Courts end up acting like a quality control department for a company that no longer produces a finished product. And the public just goes through whiplash because, one administration says this, the next administration comes in, immediately undoes it. A judge pauses that. A second judge restores part of it. An agency types up some language that one judge says might be contentious, even though it changes nothing. And everybody argues over even what the rule is now that it's been marginally changed. Like, it's not governing. Like, that's like legal speed dating. Kind of like it just gets moved around so much. And I think that, the real problem is not just that things are changing. That's inevitable. Policy's always changed. Elections have always had consequences. Power always shifts. Priority from a nation always moves. Of course, it's fine. The problem now is that almost nothing feels durable enough to command that trust. And that is new. That's different, because a country can handle disagreement. It builds from it if done correctly. A country that's built properly, certainly as ours historically has, handles vigorous debate. Like it thrives in that and becomes better if done correctly. What it struggles to handle, in the sense that every major question is permanently unresolved, that becomes harder to deal with. Immigration, temporary. Spending, we're going to do a temporary extension. Student loans, It's temporary. Let's put a pin in that. Border policy. We got something working right now, but it is temporary. So we'll see how it goes. How agencies rule, temporary. Like even things that get announced with the most confidence in the world, like they're in the middle of a victory lap, like on the back of their jersey, it just has a giant asterisk. Pending litigation or pending election or pending appeal or pending reversal. Like that is a terrible way to run what used to be a very serious country. Because eventually people stop asking, what is the new law? And they start asking, like, how long is this version of it supposed to last? Like, and that is a very different mindset to have when living in a society. That means the expectation of permanence is gone. And once that expectation of stability and permanence is gone, a lot of other things start going with it. The respect for institutions who haven't done a great job earning that respect, confidence in the process, same thing, and a willingness to make long-term decisions, not just election cycle ones, goes out. And then the patience for government itself erodes at the knees because people cannot live with rules they don't like. They can do that. You can make people live with rules they don't like a lot more easily than they can live with rules that never stop changing and they don't understand. At least a bad rule is a rule that you can challenge it on its face. A temporary rule is an argument disguised as a law or a rule, more or less. Like in a country getting flooded with those is difficult to manage. You got to be fair, and sometimes temporary measures are necessary. I get that. That's why it's in there. Emergencies happen, crises happen, unexpected events happen. That's why the ability to have these workarounds exists, and a serious government should be able to act immediately when temporary action is needed. But that's stopped being what this is. It's not occasional. It's not some emergency flexibility that needs, unleashing in some unheard of circumstance. This is permanent temporariness, if that makes sense. But that is the difference, because the exception is becoming the expectation. The stopgap is becoming the structure. The patch is becoming the asphalt pavement. And the more that happens, the more the public starts living with a low-grade sense that nothing is fully under control. Because if it's temporary, that means it's not permanent, and that means it's not under control. And you can hear it in the language: temporary extension, interim guidance, emergency authority, continuing resolution, administrative pause, pending appeal. All of this vocabulary was historically just in like Delk's world of attorneys and law. Now it's just part of the political discourse, because government that no longer finishes things, it just keeps things from collapsing on a schedule. And again, not collapse, and that is important. The country still functions, more or less. Checks still clear. Planes mostly take off and land. We got some hiccups recently, but agencies more or less operate and the lights do stay on. But mostly functioning is not the same thing as governing well. And a country as large, as wealthy, and institutionally developed as we are should not be this dependent on provisional management or duct tape together solutions just to make ends meet or just to get by. Like, it tells every major actor in the system the same thing. Don't settle, don't build, don't commit too hard. Just hold your position and wait for the next reversal. And that's how this drift, not collapse, drift, becomes culture. That's how a republic slowly teaches you that it teaches itself, not even you, it teaches itself that it cannot resolve things. And once a country gets used to that, it becomes very hard to reverse, because temporary government is seductive. Lets politicians avoid hard votes, lets presidents act without full consensus, lets Congress punt and say there's nothing we could do, lets agencies stretch beyond what they're supposed to be doing because Congress won't step in, and it lets courts fill that space. Everybody gets to keep moving without actually solving the underlying problem, but they all get to look like they're kind of doing something, which looks efficient right up until you realize that you're living in a country where almost every major issue is now being managed, delayed, litigated, relitigated, instead of permanently resolved. And that is the age we're in, the age of temporary government. And the danger is not that makes government messy. The danger is that it makes instability feel normal. It teaches the public to expect uncertainty. It replaces democratic settlement with procedural suspense. And eventually, a country that lives too long in that sort of suspense starts losing something deeper than efficiency. It loses civil confidence because people stop believing that the system can actually decide anything and make it stick. And when that belief goes, you don't get calm in its place. You get cynicism and distrust. You get constant escalation. You get institutions that look functional from a distance, but exhausted and paper thin upon any examination. And to me, that is one of the real stories of modern America. Not just that government is too big or too slow or too partisan. All of those are worth a chit chat about, and we have in the past. And that it's that more and more of it feels temporary. Temporary by design, temporary by avoidance, temporary because nobody trusts the other side enough to build something lasting. And the country that can survive for a bit on that, but it is a place where confidence in a system goes to die because temporary governments just are something that we cannot abide. And we need a fix around it. And I don't know what it is, but I know that once people start talking about it more and recognizing that we are just getting really used to this being the standard operating procedure, that we stop complaining that it shouldn't be this way. And I'd love to get y'all's thoughts because I know, like I said, I think we're getting lulled into a false sense that it's working when it is just temporary fixes.
Spinning our wheels.
Yeah. For the sake of looking like we're doing something or not looking bad in the moment. Or, if your house is on fire and you throw a cup of water at it and it stops one like window treatment from burning for like 5 minutes, but the rest of the house is burning down, you don't get to go onto the front lawn of your burning house and do a press conference as Jeb Hart, savior of the drapes. And like you hear the crackling in the background of the whole house burning down. But, the drapes are still damp at this point, so they're not going to go up in flames yet. And I did save them for now. And people on the front yard are being like, well, the house is still on fire. But yeah, I know, but I saved the drapes. And the drapes really pull the room together and make everything. I just don't think it's, and like Del, going back like years and years, I don't know if he has headphones on, I can hear, but going back to, your youth and this time, was this sort of workaround methodology utilized? And I know it's utilized from time to time when it was designed to be, but was it ever used in the way that we are using it so regularly in the past 15, 20 years?
Oh gosh, Jeb, I don't know. Every older generation always says, back in the day it was all great and now the world's going to hell. I think that's just part of the way it works. Things have definitely changed in my lifetime. I do think that, when I was younger, we had some basic buy-in from the broad general public as to what America was about and what it was supposed to be, and more importantly, as to what Western civilization was about. And, there was a general agreement that a commitment to Western civilization, and I see that. I truly think at the time being, Western civilization is in the crucible and probably won't survive. And that's, I remember my Western Civ class at Columbia State long, long ago. All civilizations rise and fall, whether it's the Romans, the Egyptians, or whatever. And so, first of all, not my problem. It won't play out before I'm gone. But I mean, we will never have another time. Ronald Reagan, what was it, in 1984, he carried 49 states. We will never have that kind of consensus again. That's just not going to happen. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but
no, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't really the question. It was more about the manner in which government functions seems to have changed, or at least how it gets things done. Like the vast majority of what's happened during President Trump's term this time, outside of the big, beautiful bill, I can't think of anything of note that has been actually passed that was not just an executive order. So I just think that it's executive orders because Congress isn't going to do the thing. So he signs executive order knowing that it's on the line and knowing it'll get challenged. It gets challenged. One court stops it. Second court narrows it, and then it becomes this weird litigation that it's not being run through Congress. It's being run through executive order with the product team, the quality product team being the judiciary, who gets to basically say, yeah, that's fine as it's written, or you need to change this, or this isn't legal. And that's not how it's supposed to work, because you have people who have voted on these representatives in Congress and the Senate to do all these things. They do nothing. And then the president sitting there is like, all right, I'll do something. I mean, Biden did it in the first days, pulling back all of Trump's border stuff, which is the inverse of this, is that because a president can come in, rescind those executive orders, and which he did day one. And then you have all these changes. So nothing feels permanent anymore, because Biden couldn't come in. If all those executive orders around the border were laws that Congress had passed, Biden couldn't have come in on day one and just sign something to make them go away. So it lacks the permanence that is required to kind of build out these systems. And I feel like we've started to lean on that because Congress does so little that it's better than nothing, I guess, is the thought process. But it has really bad ripple effects to it.
Well, I mean, Congress is just, I'll go into it on the other side, but Congress is not going to act, so the president is filling the vacuum. That has changed in my lifetime. I mean, Congress used to act, and, again, we are more divided in this country than we have been since right before the Civil War. And again, though, but it's more than just the country. I mean, Western civilization itself is in balance. I know that sounds apocalyptic, but it's the truth, and you either believe it or you don't. So let's if you're ready, let's take this break and we'll come back.
All right. And while we're at the break, Clay, if you wouldn't mind looking up the just the highlights or lowlights from the National Democratic Party of Canada's. Just they have the highlights of the speaker that I'd like to play in the background.
Okay. All right.
All right. Because me describing it is not going to give you the color and context that this deserves, or they deserve, or she deserves, or again, I'll let them. We'll cross that bridge after the break.
This is Coach Tredarius Goff from Columbia Central High School football. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
We at Hollins Pharmacy must be doing something right. We've been providing pharmaceutical services in the Middle Tennessee area for over 60 years. The guiding principles of our business are fast, accurate, friendly, personal service. We do not have long waiting lines, and our phone calls are answered by a staff member. We strive to get to know our customers by name, not just a date of birth or number. We are your locally owned hometown pharmacy, and we appreciate your business. We urge you to come visit us at Hollins Pharmacy, 1608 Hatcher Lane here in Columbia.
Hey, this is Derek Ransom with 10 Pin Alley, voted #1 family entertainment center in Murray County. We offer 32 bowling lanes, giant arcade, laser tag, bumper cars, and a full cafe and bar menu. We also specialize in group events, kids and adult birthday parties, company parties, sports team parties, and holiday parties. We're located at 322 East James Campbell Boulevard in Columbia. Call us today at 931-381-BOWL or visit us at 10pin.com. 10 Pin Alley, it's where the good times roll.
In today's uncertain world, you can never be too careful about your family's financial future. That's why the Parker Group, a part of Baird's Private Wealth Management, is offering a free second opinion on your financial plans. Let us review your current plan, and we will identify any gaps and offer suggestions to improve it. Please call the Parker Group at 931-548-3737. That's 931-548-3737. Robert W. Baird and Company Incorporated does not offer tax or legal advice.
This is Mark Curry at the Trailer Store. We are a local, family-owned business. Every day, I work with my wife, Susie, my mother, Becky, and my son, Justin. We offer a full line of lawnmower trailers, utility trailers, stock trailers, and a full line of trailer parts. We also offer service. Come see us at 1021 New Lewisburg Highway. Call us at 931-381-2795. That's 931-381-2795.
Farmer Johnny here, Taylor Family Farm. I want to give y'all a little look-see. We raise 100% non-GMO, grass-fed beef, pasture chicken, and pork on our family farm. Everything that we grow is raised with love and care to ensure the highest quality and nutrition for our family and customers. You can shop online at TaylorFamilyFarmTN.com or visit our farm store in person at Etheridge, Tennessee at 301 Dave Reisner Road. That's TaylorFamilyFarmTN.com for more information.
Hi, I'm Kelly Dobson, owner of Caring Hearts Home Healthcare here in Columbia. For over 20 years, we've proudly served our community, locally owned and operated, providing trusted care you can count on. We support seniors, individuals with disabilities, and even short-term care after surgery. From personal care to homemaking and companionship, our team is here to help you or your loved one live safely and comfortably at home. Call Caring Hearts today at 931-381-5470 or stop by in person 1121 Trotwood Avenue here in Columbia.
Hello, I'm Rick Whitley.
And I'm Daniel Pollard from Jones & Lang Sporting Goods. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the many years of support. Since 1966, Jones & Lang has been locally owned and operated and supplying teams from T-ball to college. Stop by and see what we can do for you. We offer a wide variety of services from silk screening and embroidery to our custom trophy and awards department.
We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to noon. Remember, Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Hello, my name is Zach Maddox. I'm a proud third-generation owner-operator of Columbia Paint and Wallcover, founded by my grandfather, Ralph Maddox, in 1946. We offer a variety of paint and wallcovering products, but our passion is customer service. We can offer many personalized services and can come out to your house or business if needed.
Come visit us at our Columbia location or our new Spring Hill location behind Church of the City, or visit us online at paintcolumbia.com.
This is Coach Devin Simler from Columbia Central Baseball. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
Welcome back in the middle of it. Jeb Hart here with you on what I now recognize is a Tuesday. Thanks to my ever diligent producer back at the studio, Mr. Clayton Harris, knower of days.
Good morning, Jeb. Hey, and I found a clip of a bit of a disagreement at the new Democrat Party in Canada over the weekend. If you want to hear a clip of it, they had some...
Yeah, we're going to get into this. I think I want to give you all a baseline as to what it is we are going to be, because the vast majority of y'all probably don't know what this is. This is a historic party in Canada. I believe now they have 7 representatives in their legislature. It's been much higher historically, but they have more or less moved to socialism. It's new Democratic Party, but it is the socialists. So they had a convention over the weekend where people came. They elected board members and party chairs and stuff, and they had a disagreement. Proceed.
All right, here it is. This was over equity cards. I hate it when that happens.
There's a point of privilege on microphone 1, then we'll go to microphone 3. Go ahead, delegate.
Yes, hello. I was standing here with my gender equity card before you called on the previous speaker. That's my point of privilege that I would like to raise.
I will explain the speaking order, which is fixed, that I cannot amend, which is the pro-con rotation. You can move yourself up a line that you're standing in.
I am pro, and I was...
We went...
You went pro, con...
We went pro-con, pro, and my plan was to go con. The speaker at con mic 3 also has a speaking card.
Yesterday, this card was used in an inappropriate manner. And while I understand in Ontario we know this is equity, even if that, this was also used inappropriate in terms of gender. I want everyone to be mindful that these cards for individuals like myself who identify as a Black woman have no value outside of this space.
Okay.
Yes. So what you were listening to there were the comrades or delegates. They had them set up in lines, and they were given, I believe the term they used was equity-seeking groups. They were given cards so that they could jump the lines to do this, and people were interrupting for points of privilege and making sure language was precise. And so this happened over the weekend, and it felt. I watched it. It came up on my timeline. I watched it because it looked like a train wreck, and it looked so much like a party that was. It looked so much less like they were trying to lead a G7 country and like they were trying to do a very generically poorly written SNL skit. And so they gathered in Winnipeg at the Royal Bank of Canada Center to choose a new leader, some of its own language for the bylaws, and shape the future of their movement, which all these conferences kind of do in one way or another. And, and they put it on display, and it was something else because a political culture so saturated with like grievance etiquette or symbolic hierarchy of grievances or oppression and identity management rituals, like it could barely protect its even basic seriousness around all of those swirling things because like every convention, I'll grant you, it has a lot of weird procedural nonsense that they have to deal with because that is how politics works. There's a lot of hand raising and checking of boxes and quorums and all this stuff. But every party has its awkward moments with floor drama and self-importance. This was not that. This was a glimpse of what I assume is a much bigger problem because this style of politics did not begin and it does not end in that room over the weekend. Versions of this nonsense have been leaking across North America left and right for years. The same obsession with like identity sorting, the same grievance arithmetic of prioritizing struggle and then ranking them on a spreadsheet, the same moral performance, the same belief that symbolic sensitivity is a substitute for executive seriousness. You've seen versions of it in activist spaces, campus safe spaces, conference, inclusion spaces, and parts of the American left for the better part of a decade to 20 years. It's become very prevalent. And the politics is where everybody is sorted into categories. Every conversation becomes a ranking of oppression. Every institution starts behaving like a group therapy session with bylaws. And that is what this looked like because like what we saw, like when it came across my feed, was coming out of this conference was not some party locked in on housing affordability or energy or Canadian productivity or just the basic mechanics of how you run a country. What you saw was a room repeatedly getting bogged down by procedural disputes over improper identity language and like floor level sensitivity management. At one point they stopped the entire proceeding over how one of the chair members was addressed. And that was the whole story. There wasn't any more like they didn't like the words they used to address the person on the chair. And they're like, we got to take a break here so everybody can recover from how uncomfortable that was. And these are the people who are standing on that dais want to run a country. They can barely run a microphone. And that's why this stuff keeps like reminding people of these clips from, I don't remember if you remember the communist conference from a few years ago. Everyone was talking about like they're saying comrade and the room melts down over like too many signs in the room that were distracting or noise levels. They were talking about like doing jazz hands instead of claps for people that were auditorily sensitive, and they had quiet rooms and therapists and some other like ritualized procedure offenses were of using gender language because somebody said, "Hey guys, can we calm down?" And people like freaked out. That's the same vibe. And it's so cringy to watch and so difficult because they all gather in a room to try and outwoke one another in a goal to be the leaders of a country who get to do that at scale. And yet they can't get out of their own way in a room full of people who agree on like 98% of the same things. But those 2% that they have disagreements on are the end of the world. And then their goal is to try to make everybody else do like have the same sort of performative, like there's this performative guilt and sensitivity instead of actually doing things. The issue is what happens when like concerns like that stop being part of the culture and what their aim is to make them part of the culture as a whole, not just their little subsection of it. Everybody gets filtered through identity categories, and then everything will be equitable. And then they use the term equity seeking people, which I don't know what that means. Like, I know what it means on the surface, people seeking equitable treatment. Fair enough. But I don't know if you're like a poor white dude, you'd like to receive equity. I don't know where the line gets drawn. There's the different turns of phrase because apparently, equity is bad, but equity seeking person is good, or the NAACP's word is bad, but person of color is good. People, they keep changing things just enough to where one is completely unacceptable and one is totally fine without giving enough details and then like creating traps for people to be offended. It's a bad system. And this was just a lampoon version. And there are plenty more of those clips, Clayton, for you to dive into at your leisure because they get even more and more absurd.
Yeah. The crowd there just, well, they looked different. So
they did. And I saw a bunch. There was a guy who was waiting outside the RBC Center, and he was just asking one question because a lot of these events, as you've seen a ton, if you try to have long form dialogue, somebody in a vest will come and shut it down, and say don't talk to them there. So he was just asking, like, if you could snap your fingers and make one change in Canada, what would it be? And I would say there are varying answers, but probably close to 60 to 70% of the people who walked out of the thing that he asked the question and answered said equitable representation. Like if they, and he was like, so if you could fix anything and you had a magic wand, that would be your one fix. And it was like 60% said equitable representation, not like this is like the magic wand question. Like if you could do anything, it wasn't if you could practically do something, not about deficits or the deficit or trade deficits or none of that, none of lower class or improving the way their healthcare system works and bills or all of that. It was, we want an equitable representation. That'll sort everything out. And it's not without merit to have people who know the situation better, but when it becomes the criteria by which the selection process starts and then everything goes from there, you automatically limit the talent pool from which you're selecting if that is your end goal. And so, it becomes, again, if that's the thing they could do with the magic wand is have the representative government be, get you a direct representation of the populace. I don't think that they would like those numbers either. California's fallen into the same boat. That might be worth touching on when we get back because right now there's 2 Republicans leading California and the Democrats were going to have a debate. But since the polling numbers showed that if they held the debate, the ones who qualified would be all white, they canceled it. So now there isn't a debate because they wouldn't do it. And now 2 Republicans are leading. And the way California's jungle primary system works is that the top 2 percentage vote getters, regardless of party, go to the ballot. So right now, the People's Republic of California would just have 2 Republicans on the ballot if things don't change. So we can circle back to that when we get back from the break. Thanks for being in the middle of it.
This is Coach Tredaris Goff from Columbia Central High School football. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
We at Hollins Pharmacy must be doing something right. We've been providing pharmaceutical services in the Middle Tennessee area for over 60 years. The guiding principles of our business are fast, accurate, friendly, personal service. We do not have long waiting lines, and our phone calls are answered by a staff member. We strive to get to know our customers by name, not just a date of birth or number. We are your locally owned hometown pharmacy, and we appreciate your business. We urge you to come visit us at Hollins Pharmacy, 1608 Hatcher Lane here in Columbia.
Hey, this is Derek Ransom with 10 Pin Alley, voted #1 family entertainment center in Murray County. We offer 32 bowling lanes, giant arcade, laser tag, bumper cars, and a full cafe and bar menu. We also specialize in group events, kids and adult birthday parties, company parties, sports team parties, and holiday parties. We're located at 322 East James Campbell Boulevard in Columbia. Call us today at 931-381-BOWL or visit us at 10pin.com. 10 Pin Alley, it's where the good times roll.
In today's uncertain world, you can never be too careful about your family's financial future. That's why the Parker Group, a part of Baird's Private Wealth Management, is offering a free second opinion on your financial plans. Let us review your current plan, and we will identify any gaps and offer suggestions to improve it. Please call the Parker Group at 931-548-3737. That's 931-548-3737. Robert W. Baird & Company Incorporated does not offer tax or legal advice.
This is Mark Curry at the Trailer Store. We are a local, family-owned business. Every day, I work with my wife, Susie, my mother, Becky, and my son, Justin. We offer a full line of lawnmower trailers, utility trailers, stock trailers, and a full line of trailer parts. We also offer service. Come see us at 1021 New Lewisburg Highway. Call us at 931-381-2795. That's 931-381-2795.
Farmer Johnny here, Taylor Family Farm. I want to give you all a little look-see. We raise 100% non-GMO, grass-fed beef, pasture chicken, and pork on our family farm. Everything that we grow is raised with love and care to ensure the highest quality and nutrition for our family and customers. You can shop online at TaylorFamilyFarmTN.com or visit our farm store in person at Etheridge, Tennessee at 301 Dave Reisner Road. That's TaylorFamilyFarmTN.com for more information.
Hi, I'm Kelly Dobson, owner of Caring Hearts Home Healthcare here in Columbia. For over 20 years, we've proudly served our community, locally owned and operated, providing trusted care you can count on. We support seniors, individuals with disabilities, and even short-term care after surgery. From personal care to homemaking and companionship, our team is here to help you or your loved one live safely and comfortably at home. Call Caring Hearts today at 931-381-5470 or stop by in person, 1121 Trotwood Avenue here in Columbia.
Hello, I'm Rick Whitley.
And I'm Daniel Pollard from Jones & Lang Sporting Goods. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the many years of support. Since 1966, Jones & Lang has been locally owned and operated and supplying teams from T-ball to college. Stop by and see what we can do for you. We offer a wide variety of services from silk screening and embroidery to our custom trophy and awards department.
We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to noon. Remember, Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Hello, my name is Zach Maddox. I'm a proud third-generation owner-operator of Columbia Paint and Wallcover, founded by my grandfather, Ralph Maddox, in 1946. We offer a variety of paint and wall covering products, but our passion is customer service. We can offer many personalized services and can come out to your house or business if needed.
Come visit us at our Columbia location or our new Spring Hill location behind Church of the City, or visit us online at paintcolumbia.com.
This is Coach Devin Simler from Columbia Central Baseball. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
Welcome back in the middle of it. I'm Jeb Hart. Happy to be here with you, Clayton Harris and Delk Kennedy, back at our Columbia studios. How is everybody?
We're good. Delk had to step out and take a phone call, but I'm here and enjoying this Tuesday,
all right.
morning, mid-morning.
Yeah, and it's when we were leaving, they were talking about the California thing, and I was trying to look up exactly how many, but I do know that the two leaders right now are the two Republicans. I mean, not with a massive amount. I think it's like 17%, and the two highest percentages, 17 and 19 or 20 and 15 or something. Everybody else is in the teens or the single digits and low. There's two Republicans that are near the top, and then another like 8 or so Democrats polling at varying levels. And the goal recently was to have the Democrats have a debate. I believe it was at a college, I don't know if it was Stanford or Oakland somewhere, but they put together a criteria, kind of a blind criteria based on fundraising, poll percentage, and a few other factors that I think is from what I've heard, it's a relatively uniform and standard rubric for debate, for being able to participate in a debate. And they utilized that. And what it came out with from the candidate pool was the people who were allowed to come, they were all white men. And so they canceled it. So now they do not have the ability, as it currently stands, to have a debate so that the people of California can kind of understand who's who or what's different or pick a candidate or hear them out, because they canceled it due to the representation portion. And as I alluded to, California runs something called a jungle primary, which is Democrats, Republicans, Independents. Everybody is all in the same primary, and the two with the most percentage of votes out of that, battle royale make it to the ballot. That's it. Doesn't matter if it's Republicans or Democrats, but it's California. So historically, it's always been, Democrat. But as it currently stands, the two highest are the two Republicans. It'd be interesting to see, where that goes. There's also a bunch more out of California with the Prop 50 votes getting called back by one of the officer who's running for governor. Pulled back a bunch of these ballots that have a lot of questions in his county and a few others. And those have been flaring up again with as we kind of go back into all these election issues that we continue to bring out, that we talked about yesterday, the one in Florida with the voter keys and stuff in Fulton County that's still been going pretty heavy, and some of the stuff in Maryland, Wisconsin, all of these voter things that are flaring up, and the internal stuff. I wanted, if I felt like I could get an eloquent answer, I would really like to talk to Mr. York about it, because he has served on these election commissions and things like that, about what the actual inner workings of it are, and how these sort of things that we're talking about not zeroing tapes or not having tabulator signed, or the counts being so drastically different, like in his opinion, how would something like that happen, or would that invalidate? Because I think that that's something worth talking about. And we've been over this a bunch of times, is that I don't understand why with anything in government ever to take the stance of we're not taking questions and your question is dumb is ever a good idea for something that's a reasonable question that they don't want to answer. All it does is feed into it and make people question it more, and calling people crazy for asking a reasonable question does not ever yield good results. But I'm interested to see what happens in California. I'm sure some people will drop out, but we'll see, how this game of hubris chicken goes, because people want to be heard or be seen, and if their names are polling at 1 to 2% or 3%, they think they have a chance, or whatever that ends up being. I'm interested to see how it shakes itself out. Someone asked me the other day about this when it was coming up, and it got me to thinking about, they said, what is your biggest fear? Like right now, we're talking about like the war in Iraq, so the war in Iran, and inflation and oil and prices and all of this. And I was like, I think really the biggest concern that doesn't get talked about enough is not the Middle East or division at home or distrust in the media, political violence or debt. All of those matter. But when he asked me that, what I think could become the most serious economic danger for the United States over the next 15 years, the kind of thing that could send shockwaves like far beyond one state. My answer was one that he didn't really expect, and it was California. Because I'm terrified of what California, not because it's weak, not because it's poor. Well, we got him back. Not because they're irrelevant. It's the exact opposite. But California is functionally bankrupt. What's he eating on? I said California is functionally bankrupt, and that makes it dangerous because they have an economy that's about $4.1 trillion. They love to tout, if it was a country, it would rank among like the top 5 economies in the world. And that is a strength, but a giant economy is not the same thing. Is not the same thing as a sound balance sheet. A wealthy state does not automatically become a disciplined state because they got a bunch of money. And what worries me so much about California is not that it lacks money. Kind of the opposite is that it has spent years building a political and financial structure around the assumption that the money will keep flowing, that the growth will keep coming, the markets will stay strong, the high earners will keep producing and keep staying, the capital gains will keep showing up right on time to make the books work. And it's a dangerous way to govern with so much at stake. And because their entitlements that they have on the books currently far, far outweigh what their revenue is. And they're losing people at a rate that no other state in New York and California and Illinois are all losing a ton. But, with the wealth tax, same thing with New York, California was a massive one, that those people are leaving. So tax base shrinks, their ability to write the budget doesn't exist, and there is no mechanism that exists for a state to declare bankruptcy. It doesn't exist. We have one for for cities. They can be insolvent or be unincorporated. There's things that can happen there, but they are, like I said, they're not bankrupt now, but they are functionally bankrupt if nothing changes. And they have shown absolutely zero indication of that sort of change to those social programs coming. Their plan is just to continue to raise taxes when they already have some of the highest taxes in the country, and then raise tax on the wealthy who ended up leaving. And they're not going to be able to make this math and spreadsheet square, so they'll collapse. And if with no method to go to bankruptcy or rectify this, and with what would be the 5th largest economy in the world, or 4th, depending on where you ask, it's a giant exposure for both us and the rest of the United States because of how poorly they've been managed for so long. They depend so heavily on the high earners and capital gains and stock-driven wealth. And that kind of tax base has been very proven over time can just leave when the others can't, and everyone else is stuck holding the bag for what you thought was going to help the little guy. And then the big guy leaves, and then you got to go in the little guy's pocket to make up the difference. And that's just the structural reality, not theoretical. Like California's own analysts predicted that it's a really serious problem and warned that the state is less prepared for a downturn than any other state. That's their analysts. So that's why the phrase matters, is less prepared for a downturn. Like, they can't say we're screwed if anything doesn't go perfectly, but the fiscal trouble usually does not arrive in one dramatic collapse. It doesn't show up with one giant siren and like flamethrowers. It's just a slow trickle of money out the door until one big bill comes and you don't have it in the bank to pay it anymore. And that's where they worry me, is because the obligations for what they continue to offer, campaign on offering, keep growing. The healthcare costs have more than doubled in 10 years. Pension burdens have gone through the roof. Homeless spending has gone through the stratosphere, and the results have gone like to the core of the earth. Like, the infrastructure demands, wildfire related costs and permitting and all of this stuff, it exists inside this political environment that too often treats the sheer size of their economy as if it was protection from just normal math, because it's not. And like Medi-Cal, their version of TennCare, like, acknowledged that billions were needed for the funding of it just to keep payments going through this year alone. And again, doesn't mean collapse is imminent, but it does mean that the pressure is real. And that kind of gap starts to appear inside major programs. They are not just budget details. They're signals of something going awry, signals that the cost structure is getting harder and harder to square up as a dependable source, and the dependable revenue base being there. And whether California has the money today is not really the question. It does. The question is whether the long-term promises are starting to outrun long-term discipline. And that seems very clear. They have, prioritized campaign promises over long-term feasibility and stability. And that's what happens when you start to just prioritize the next election or just prioritize the next media cycle or the news. You stop planning for the future, and you end up like leveraging or selling the future for the now. And it feels good in the moment, and you get the applause at the moment, and your job as a politician, you can't do it unless you're still in power. So you say, all right, let's make a bunch of these promises that I know I can't keep. Or if I keep them, it'll be a problem, but it looks good and I'll get elected. Then I can fix it. And then it just goes on. And then you raise taxes, you get voted in, people leave, you rework a few things. All of this works back around to, I can kind of Seinfeld or Curb Your Enthusiasm this and bring all the points together near the end here, because Artemis is a project that's not about an election cycle. It's about a long-term thing. And that's something that we should all get behind. And the temporary government or the immediate fixes is what California started to do well before, or at scale at least, before the federal government did. And they're the test case in that those temporary fixes or more paperwork or more things become a problem at scale if they go unchecked and you don't come up with actual solutions, not just extensions or pauses in insolvency or things like that. You have to actually do the difficult thing, not just the thing that'll get you to the next election cycle or the next term. And they have yet to do any of those things.
Okay. Jeb, I'm still here, but it sounds like we got 2 minutes left, and I'm sorry I had to go take a phone call. But
no worries, settle in.
Yeah, maybe we'll do this another day, but back in the 80s, when I came of age, Ronald Reagan was president, Tip O'Neill was Speaker of the House. They actually reached some very meaningful compromises. Reagan's famous saying was, if we can agree on 80%, we agree. And the 86 Tax Reform Act was genius, and both sides gave up. Ronald Reagan gave up the capital gains tax break. He gave up accelerated depreciation. Both of which were sacred cows for the Republican Party that George Bush the first quickly led the repeal of, and it led to his not getting reelected again. But the 86, I would argue that the 86, the Democrats and Republicans among many other things, compromised on the 86 Tax Reform Act, and it propelled an economic boom like this country has never seen before. I think we had rates of growth up in 5 to 8% range. And so, we're running out of time, I guess, but I'll be happy to take it up another day.
Yeah, no, I think that's any solid examples that we can go back on in recent history that are actually, bipartisan. So often in, political talking head pieces or, those CNN hits from the rotunda, they just slap bipartisan infrastructure bill or bipartisan. Put these qualifiers on there to make it sound as though it was agreed upon, but that's not the case. We need to look back on what made those truly bipartisan bills get through, what was given up, what was on both sides, how they worked together to find something that was agreeable, and start to go back to that. Because the 80% thing, this idea that everybody has to have the perfect version of the bill is so just not doable.
The most that Reagan ever had, if my memory is correct, is maybe in his first term he had a Republican majority in the Senate. I don't think he ever had a majority in the House, and then the majority in the Senate, I think, was lost at some point, maybe in his second term. But not only was Reagan willing to compromise, at that time the Democrats were willing, and I don't know, what the chemistry was, but the Democrats were willing to engage in meaningful compromise. And it wasn't just the 86 Tax Reform Act. There were several things passed with both sides giving, really deep, sacred cow concessions to make it happen. And
I think we need to find a way back.
That's just not happening. I mean, that's just not. I can't see that ever happening again.
No, so we got to find a way back there. That's what we can kind of hope for. But I appreciate you being in. Hope y'all enjoyed the show. Clayton, Delt, I appreciate you being here. I've been Jeb Hart. This has been the middle of it. And until I see y'all again, be careful, be kind, be good. Don't let anybody else do your thinking for you. And I will see